statewide amusement tax at 7%, a targeted RTA sales tax at 0.25%, a billionaire tax, speed cameras and safety zones authorization for municipalities, and a large event ticket surcharge at $5.
There are things like what you're calling a billionaire's tax that is really, it's a tax on unrealized capital gains. Never been done before. Never been done before by any state, never been done by the federal government.
So when I'm sitting here thinking about in my community, Granite City works, and is U.S. Steel going to invest there or not? I need him to have those immediate tax benefits. I can't give them 5 years when other states are giving them immediate tax benefits. Like, it is that desperate. We are desperately trying to save manufacturing in Granite City. And
just some of the conversation yesterday at the Illinois Statehouse as we get into Illinois in Focus Daily. I'm Greg Bishop with you live this morning after a long day yesterday, and it's expected to be a long day today with the final day of fall veto session. Are you going to wake up and find out that your taxes are increasing? You're going to wake up and find out that we're going to have more reliance on renewable energy like battery storage and wind and solar. You're going to wake up and find out that maybe the state's Tier 2 pension system is going to somewhat revert back to Tier 1, increasing the cost to not just state but local taxpayers as well. All of that,
according to a report issued by the governors
in Springfield, where you've got a lot going on. So let's jump into it. I'm Greg Bishop with you each and every weekday morning. The day started off with the Illinois Revenue Alliance talking about what they say was the need for progressive revenue, and in particular, you've got Erin Coleman Branshawd. She is a pastor of St. Luke's Lutheran Church in Logan Square, and she spelled out why she thinks that the state needs to increase taxes on certain individuals across the state.
According to a report issued by the Governor's Office of Management and Budget, will cost Illinois over $830 million this year. That's $830 million in lost funds for our communities, unless the General Assembly takes action.
Now, what are some of those actions she wants the General Assembly to take? Well, tax increases.
We need to raise revenue from the wealthiest in our state who are profiting off of these attacks. Right. And we need to take steps to do so immediately.
So taking those steps immediately, she says, with the final day now today of fall veto session, what is that going to look like? Others were there, part of the Illinois Revenue Alliance.
ICER is proud to stand with our fellow members of the Illinois Revenue Alliance to say that here in our state, we have the opportunity to make the brave decisions. Not the tough ones to cut the programs, but the brave decisions to tax the rich, tax the billionaire, so they could pay their fair share in this moment and onwards. Because right now in veto session, the General Assembly has the choice to go the opposite direction of the Trump administration, and they must do so.
So what is that going to look like, though? Again, this is the Illinois Revenue Alliance, a group of activists wanting to change state tax law. They say to get more money, and they say it's in response to the Trump administration's efforts in limiting dollars to states like Illinois. Another individual with the Illinois Revenue Alliance, part of the Workers Center for Racial Justice, sharing some thoughts, and also a mantra that this group has of tax the rich.
So we, the Illinois Revenue Alliance, are here to say enough is enough. We are here to say no money for the bears. Let me say it again. No money for the bears. Feed Chicago babies, not the Chicago Bears. Fund Chicago babies, not the Chicago Bears. We're calling on Governor Pritzker to lead the charge to tax the rich in Illinois, making sure that wealthy corporations and the ultra-rich pay their fair share. It is time for our state legislators to pass legislation to decouple our state structure from the federal one, so the ultra-wealthy cannot double dip on federal tax breaks. It is time for our local and state governments to ensure that the people of Illinois have accessible, guaranteed income so residents can strive, not barely survive. If Illinois taxed the ultra-rich and wealthy, we could generate over $6 billion in revenue to support programs like SNAP, guaranteed income, housing, transit, education, and support for formerly incarcerated people, and ensure that Illinois can genuinely be a place that families can call home. So Governor Pritzker, the solution is simple. Decouple Illinois and tax the rich. When I say tax the rich, you say rich. Tax the rich, tax the rich.
So this is just a group. It's not lawmakers. They're there talking about, quote, progressive revenue. But what are some of the revenue ideas that lawmakers are proposing? We've heard in May the Senate passed a bill to fund mass transit's fiscal cliff. At that time, it was thought to be $700+ million. And the Illinois Senate passed a bill that included a $1.50 retail delivery tax. Well, now the House, which didn't want to advance that one, they proposed their own set of taxes to fund mass transit in the state of Illinois.
It includes a statewide amusement tax at 7%, a targeted RTA sales tax at 0.25%, a billionaire tax, speed cameras and safety zones authorization for municipalities, and a large event ticket surcharge at $5. There's also some discussion about an investment in capital as well.
So what's that going to do? Ultimately, you're going to see possibly tax increases on streaming services, and again, increased sales taxes in some areas. All of this, they say, to generate $1.5 billion for mass transit. Delgado holding a news conference after the fact, saying that this is different from the Senate because
I think there was a lot of concern in our communities about a $1.50 retail delivery tax. And so we had to come up with something that we thought was a balanced approach and that it was sustainable long-term, and
balanced
that's what we
approach
have.
being a series of taxes. Governor J.B. Pritzker asked about this yesterday in Taylorville for an unrelated event, and he seemed to throw cold water on these ideas. Here's the governor.
I think there's a whole lot of work that the legislature still needs to do. As you know, when you come up with a new idea, it's got to be run through the Department of Revenue to figure out how you might go about collecting the tax or what it would actually yield. And so anticipate that work will be done. There are things like what you're calling a billionaire's tax that is really, it's a tax on unrealized capital gains. It's never been done before. Never been done before by any state, never been done by the federal government. So once again, you got to do a whole lot of work before you can pass a bill that, if you don't even know how it would work or whether you could actually collect on it.
Once again is going to be the process. We've got 1 day left. So you've got competing proposals that are on the table here. One, the Senate's already passed for the $1.50 retail delivery tax to fund mass transit, and another one that the House has for streaming services tax increases on sales on a variety of areas, and a billionaire's tax and such, red light camera taxes. Here's the governor being asked more.
Is that something you support?
No.
And how do you think that will look? How do you think increasingly Democratic voters in the suburbs will take that, since they would be paying for it?
It's a bad idea. We've had so many problems with speed cameras in this state. There's been corruption around them. Honestly, I think we need to take a pause.
What about the amusement entertainment tax?
Look, I mean, we could go through a whole bunch of things. As you know, the Senate passed a bunch of things last May. This one's passed. I mean, this isn't, as it is, it's not going forward. There's got to be a lot of discussion between the House and the Senate in order to come up with a final bill, because it isn't going to look like what the House has put forward.
And again, a lot of discussion on the final day of session. So which is it going to be? Is it going to be this tax increase, or is it going to be this tax increase? Somebody shared with me an interesting story that they had about being an intern somewhere, and then somebody came in afterwards and they felt that they weren't a good intern, but the intern that followed was worse, and it made them look good, and it made me think about, well, are we given, two options here, tax increase or tax increase, and it's the choice between two tax increases. Which one looks better to legislators? Is it going to be the $1.50 retail tax, or is it going to be the billionaire's tax, the streaming services tax, the red light camera fees, the sales tax increase? Which is it going to be? Even the labor was a little bit thrown off by just the ongoing back and forth here. Governor Pritzker, again, seeming to throw cold water on it. Tim Dre, president of the AFL-CIO, held a brief gaggle with reporters yesterday, and, he was a little surprised.
And what kind of conversations have
It
you
was
had?
unexpected, to be honest. I wasn't expecting it, but we've been so focused on the House bill that, that in the spring we talked, we worked with the governor's office in both chambers to do the reforms, and we were very, very successful. As you notice, nobody's really talking about the reforms that we put together. It's all about the revenue. So it seems to me that we should just all sit down again and talk about revenue. Because the reforms mean nothing without the money. I mean, let's just be honest. I mean, the reforms and the money go hand in hand.
So the Republicans have been opposing tax increases without the reforms. Democrats are saying we can do both. And the reforms at RTA, CTA, Metra, trying to unify things, make them more streamlined, find efficiencies. These types of things with Republicans questioning where's all the money gone that they've already been given? Why do we need to give more money to something that's not managing those tax dollars properly? So again, that's one issue. And today's the final day of fall veto session. I'm hoping they don't go into the early morning hours Friday. But you've got the debates about how they're going to pull this off. Is it going to be this set of tax increases or this set of tax increases? We'll find out by the end of session. But something else that they're advancing is looking to decouple Illinois tax code from the federal tax code. And there's a lot of concern here. You have the Illinois Federation, the Taxpayers Federation, testifying in front of a House committee yesterday about this proposal to decouple.
Right. Again, I'm Maurice Schulten, Taxpayers Federation of Illinois. First, I just want to thank Leader Tarver for the inclusion of the SALT, making the SALT workaround permanent. That's a change that will allow a lot of small businesses here in Illinois to pay less federal taxes, so they can keep that money here rather than sending it to the federal government. So again, thank you for that. However, we are opposed to the GILTI to NCI change. We are opposed to including NCTI income into Illinois' corporate base income, the corporate income tax base, which is both unfair and unconstitutional. The U.S. Constitution limits the state's taxing power to income earned in or connected to Illinois. This change, without a change to this taxpayer's apportionment factor, this is now again including this foreign income into the tax base. This is income that is earned, profits are earned overseas. They're being taxed by foreign governments due to foreign activity, and including that income in Illinois' tax base is an overreach, and it discourages global companies from maintaining operations at headquarters in our state.
So it says that this decoupling would be an overreach and would discourage investments in growing businesses in Illinois. You had State Representative Will Guzzardi, a Democrat from Chicago, pushing back on this idea that decoupling would harm the states.
Generally speaking, with some potential minor changes, it's net revenue neutral to the state over time and net neutral to the businesses over time. It's just like, as you described it, a timing question as to when the deductions can be taken. Okay. And then just as a point of information, and maybe you have more detail on this than I do, but I think Michigan and Rhode Island have already decoupled from this provision as well as other provisions in the H.R. 1.
Now, that idea of other states are doing it, so Illinois should. That's something that the Tax Foundation, not the Taxpayers Federation of Illinois, but the Tax Foundation has said will make Illinois less competitive. Because, say, if Indiana keeps the tax code similar to what the Trump administration got through Congress, then it's going to make Indiana more competitive than Illinois. And if other states surrounding us don't decouple, and Illinois does, then it could harm the state's competitiveness for businesses. Guzzardi went on, though, to talk about how he says this is not as bad as they say.
The point I'm trying to make is I don't think that we're the only state in the nation considering doing this. I think other states have already done it, and many others will continue to do so. And that this ultimately, it's not as though the business isn't going to be able to take the value of this credit. It's just a question of when the value is going to apply. So
now, Amy Ellick, a Republican from Alton, she said that her businesses in her district, big manufacturers, small businesses, they need these tax benefits now, not 5 years down the road.
So when I'm sitting here thinking about in my community, Granite City works, and is U.S. Steel going to invest there or not? I need them to have those immediate tax benefits. I can't give them 5 years. when other states are giving them immediate tax benefits. Like, it is that desperate. We are desperately trying to save manufacturing in Granite City. And so when I look at these decoupling things, I do think about those large employers and those large manufacturers and those large businesses of all sorts, but I also think about the medium-sized manufacturers or the medium-sized businesses that employ people in all of our districts and even our small businesses. So anytime that we take away and make us an outlier, we are absolutely hurting business. So I would strongly urge my colleagues, when you're thinking about these provisions,
And she says they need to consider big and small businesses alike. All right, so which tax increase is it going to be for transit? Tax increase A, B, and C, or tax increase E, F, and G? And then the decoupling. How's that going to impact Illinois' business climate? Obviously, we'll be tracking this today, the final day of fall veto session. So wake up with us tomorrow. We'll see how much energy I have and how late they go or early into the morning they go. But we'll have it all. Go to thecentersquare.com.